members and members of the public will still be able to participate virtually. Members who are joining via Zoom must leave their cameras on. This meeting is being streamed live on our YouTube channel and a transcript is being recorded. So I just want to say hi, I'm Leslie Bogosian Murphy. I am the co-chair. Marty DeCat, our other co-chair, unfortunately last minute said he cannot make it, so he wanted to apologize to the committee. But we do have somewhat of a full agenda here. But all of our guests, I see Christine's online to talk about Port Authority, bus terminal, Gateway's here, and Parks is here. So Paul, why don't we start with Parks?
Okay, so I guess I can go with the most exciting part. I guess we want to go to the syringe and the summons report. And once again, showing that District 4 parks are very, very safe and actually used, most correctly. We only had really, let's see, I think we had 2 syringes. We had 1 syringe in Penn South, 1 syringe in Chelsea Park. These both occurred the week of, I guess, July 27th to August 2nd. I guess in the heat of the summer, people were losing their minds a little bit. The only other, in my sector, the only other syringes I had were really in Madison Square Park. I think Madison had 4. I think they had 4. So relatively safe. Once again, the leaderboard is Highbridge Park, 1,000, 1,300, 600, 400. So if you think about neighborhood and think about park use, relatively safe in that respect. For summonses, once again, also very, very few. Most of what we've gotten in District 4 were parking violations. And once again, those were down by Hudson Yards or Bella Abzug Park. There were 5 the week of August 16th. And Chelsea Park actually had 1 that same week. So really, no real infractions. Throughout the month of August, there were summonses given throughout the borough. Alcohol consumption, failure to comply with an officer. Let's see, what else was unleashed dog? There's a few of those. Unlawful vending, that's a very, very big one. So it really depends upon where you are. But once again, District 4 has proved to be very, very tame overall. I also want to give you some information about some of the other things that I tend to report on internally and things that the agency keeps track of, because I think that the community and community board don't really have a sense of operations. So I don't want to make this very, very long, but I just thought that I would let you know that they actually monitor how many times we visit a park to maintain it and clean it. And so we are supposed to go, all of our parks are listed as, I guess, level A, which means they're supposed to get at least 5 visits during the week. And so I report to my chiefs. I go through the data system to see, how many visits there have been if we've missed any. And, I'm very, very pleased that, there's consequences for this, but we always meet our service level agreement for the city of New York. These visits are reported to the mayor's office, so it's really very, very important. Also, things that we consider are supervisor inspections. Every park, every playground is supposed to be inspected at least once a week. And it is supervisors inspections where they pick up things like the pavement, weedy conditions, litter, the conditions that it can be addressed either by the district directly or through a work order that goes to shops. We've had some activity, a lot of activity or issues during the month of August with slats. Let's see, what else was there? Oh, and rodent holes. A few of our parks have a lot of rodent holes. They actually fail for rodent holes in some cases. We consider that litter. So in those locations, Chelsea, DeWitt and McCaffrey were constantly writing work orders to have the exterminators come and bait. Usually that's in the horticultural areas. We try to stay on top of that. So that gives you a sense of how we look after the parks. There's also a series of high stakes inspections We have the park inspectors that come, and these are the ones that really affect our ratings. These inspections come spontaneously, they come unannounced, and they just show up and they rate what they see. So it's really a high stakes inspection, and that also gets reported to the agency and also to the mayor's office. So that's how we kind of keep our maintenance under control and keep things safe and enjoyable for the general public. Program wise, we have a couple of things also coming up. We have Movies Under the Stars that are scheduled. That's September 18th, there'll be a movie at Hell's Kitchen. There's September 25th, there'll be a movie also at Matthews Palmer. So and there are posters in those parks. I wish I should have written down what the movies are, but there are posters in the park that give you those parks give you more information. Finally, just some upcoming community engagement activities. We have volunteer events coming up. Starting tomorrow, we have fence painting at DeWitt Clinton Park. By the way, I figured out it takes with the volunteers about a 3-year cycle to paint all of the wrought iron fencing. And so we have a group coming on tomorrow, we have a group coming at the end of September. We will have completed all of the exterior wrought iron, all of the interior wrought iron fencing. And it's time to start all over again. So that's coming. We're doing the McCaffrey retaining wall painting along the sidewalk. That'll be on the 16th. We're doing on the 18th at Chelsea, we're doing I guess we call it the seal fountain area, that fence, and also planting some perennials in the planters. And on the 19th, there'll be some more daffodil planting over at DeWitt. So very, very active program coming up, and also very, very good condition. Any questions? Very happy to answer.
Is there any questions for Parks? Roberta?
So we're currently in the process of our budgetary request. And so much of that entails sort of following up on some of the things that we have talked about throughout the year. Although the first question I will ask is in terms of the priorities that committee members have brought up to you over the course of this year, do you have any recommendations of things that would be helpful for us to request?
Oh gosh, you know something? Well, first of all, let me just say this. I have given my longstanding list to the agency, over a variety of years. I'm very, very pleased that in some of the locations, the thing that's most important to me is park house improvements. And so we know that some of the surveying, some of the pre-planning has begun. There have been visits to Chelsea Park, and also there have been visits also at Matthews Palmer. So I'm very, very happy that bit of infrastructure. A lot of the other things I think they tend to be a little bit more operational, whether it's number of staff, things of that nature. But that kind of, budgetary priority, I think most of my requests have been sent up the pipe.
And do you mind explaining how park house improvements and what they ultimately do for a park? Excuse my.
So not every park has a park house, and ideally, the best way to maintain a park is to have the staff on site so they can always be there to respond to conditions as they arise as people use the park. So many of our parks, look at Gertrude Kelly, look at Penn South, for example, there's no park house. And so a mobile crew, has to maintain it. So they may go once or twice a day, but they leave the site, and that happens, can't be responded to, possibly even until the next day. So most of the park houses, it's my understanding that were built that are in the playgrounds, were not really designed yes, they were designed to be bathrooms for the general public, but they were designed as a place for the maintenance man to leave his tools and he could fix stuff and then go to the next location. Over time, we found that we could actually put staff there and they could be fixed posts at those locations. But they're not really designed for people to be there. So for example, there's no changing room, for example, and that would be helpful. And they're not modern. You couldn't, there was a story many years ago when I started up in at Morningside, where somebody had a toaster and a microwave going, and it blew out the power in the park. It was really, really serious stuff. So those kinds of things. And so what I want is, I want the park houses to be a place where someone can be comfortable all day working, that they have their place to report to, they have all their supplies there. But as we go into, as climate change, progresses, I was very concerned about air conditioning because people are working outdoors. They need a place to go to cool off. Even a mobile crew could actually stop there, have a place to cool off. That's very important. I was also very concerned about plumbing amenities. So a lot of these buildings were built, for storing tools and supplies and not people. So the sewer trap for the bathrooms is actually inside the building. And so it's not as pleasant as it might be. So I wanted those adjustments to be made. So all of that kind of, back of house stuff could actually be outdoors. So I want them to address those needs. So you really could put somebody there so that they could really be dedicated and be self-sufficient at that location.
That is a very helpful explanation. And are there projects in this district that need further attention? It sounds like these are.
Every park house in District 4 needs, as far as I'm concerned, needs some improvement to bring it into the 21st century.
And the connection, I guess, there is with staffing. There's long been needed staffing.
Well, we
ultimately address these, but then they can only be on site if you have this.
The park houses are there, so when we have the appropriate staff who can be trusted to work independently, then we do staff the park houses. But they could be better. They could serve the workers, and they could serve, the needs of the park better if there were some upgrades. Also, even the issue of electrification, because we're trying to use more electric equipment. But you can't charge up all these batteries if you've only got one outlet. So simple things like that also need to be addressed.
That's certainly very helpful. And I don't know, I guess it would be every major park in the district has the potential to be upgraded, is the broad answer to the question of what is needed.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay, and then if you don't mind, and sorry to monopolize time, I don't mean to take too much, but I think I have 4 items that we've talked about in the past. The first being, I think, the do it Clinton Park and what's going on over there.
Okay, so on the capital front, you can always use Capital Tracker, which is on the Parks Department website, which gives you, it shows you the stage in the capital trajectory for projects that are ongoing. It may not always be, updated up to the minute, but it does give you a sense of the steps to come and the steps that have been completed. So, but what I can tell you just very, very briefly, because I was expecting this, Penn South, it's in the procurement stage. I think I mentioned that last time. It's in the procurement stage. DeWitt is in the design stage. And what I will tell you is very, very happy about DeWitt. We know we had the community presentation. I was also on site. I did my own walkthrough, made my own recommendations. I'm actually very, very excited about that. This also, and those kinds of improvements, it's not just, new play equipment or pickleball courts or whatever. It's not just those, that's actually the easy stuff. My concerns were, number one, storage facilities, because we have very unattractive containers, which are necessary. That's something else that park houses also need. They need a place to stow stuff. I mean, not just, they need cabinets to put things in. And even if we have volatile chemicals, we need a way to really address them officially. I'm sorry I said this on YouTube, but we need to plan for that in the future. So that's something that can also come out of this process. But also infrastructurally, there's stuff going on underground because we have sinkholes. We know that if the spray shower is going full blast and there's a lot of water going down down the drain, I know that there is water that pops up and leaks in other places. So we know that there's other infrastructure, other, water, I don't know, conduit issues that we also can address with this process. And so I've also brought that to the attention of the capital team so they can keep an eye out for that as we go forward with that capital project.
I think that is definitely exciting to hear the updates, and we'll definitely take a look at the capital tracker as well. I think that one of the other areas was like the interest in having some sort of solar light pilot, and that the agency is not ultimately like supportive of that. And that if there's any information, we would love to hear.
Well, I will tell you that one of the things that they also want to do is, they wanted to just upgrade to the lighting in that playground area. There is some of their old Cobra, the Cobra head lights. There are some of them have beep holes, which is the standard park light shape. There's a mixture of all sorts of light fixtures there. And so obviously we're gonna try and make that uniform. They're probably gonna increase the number of lights. But what I did say to them was, if it is possible to include one solar light pole in a location where the canopy will allow, I said the community will appreciate. And the place that I think it probably would most likely go is in the area. There's also, I think there's also a thought of putting in a new staircase. You can go from the basketball courts right out onto the overlook area. You have another way to get there. So at that staircase where there is less tree canopy, that might be the place where such a light would go. I do not know where it's going. I'm not promising that it's going to happen, but I told them when they asked me that might be a good amenity to have. So
Brad is not here, but I feel like I can speak for Brad, and only in this particular instance, in saying I think that both he and many others are really appreciative with that when they came to pass. I have two more.
Well, if you're doing the budget stuff,
Yeah.
we can save that for the.
Yeah.
Do you wanna save it for the budget, or do you want?
Just asking if there are some places where it said contact the agency for more information.
Yeah, so just to fill everyone in, you can keep asking Paul, but CB4 will have a meeting with Parks and Steve Simon. So Steve Simon is the chief of staff to the borough commissioner. In fact, we were just talking with him today about what we do for the budget asks, and this Paul as well. WPE will talk with Steve, and we have our list that we've had for many years. Some things we take off, some things we don't, but some things have been there forever, some things are half done, which is good, it's progress. So we are scheduled, I believe, next week. I don't know if we're next week to talk with Steve about, they have, as Roberta was saying, what are your priorities? Parks has their priorities, what they want to see in this district. And then they will come to us and say, this is our list, and we say, this is our list, and we kind of marry them together and see where they kind of fold together. So we're planning to do that next week, after we have our discussion on what's important to us today. And also whatever new things we brought up over the year and letters we've written. So that is in the works to see what we can kind of merge together and see if our priority lists sync up. But go ahead, sorry.
I guess
I just wanted to
go ahead. It is helpful context, which I imagine we'll get to. I guess my last one is, was there a playground associate in Matthews Palmer this year?
I believe there was, and the person stayed. And I've done, yes, very, very briefly. It's very, very brief stay. I have no more information, other than said I was very surprised, but yes, it's very, very short.
That is very helpful, thank you. I think that's it for me, thank you.
Good. Anyone else? Questions for folks? It's not like last month, it was like, we had a lot of questions for you.
Before the
Today's
break.
not that, what?
Before the break.
Before the break.
Yeah.
And you'd be very happy, I told someone at DeWitt Clinton to get his dog off the.
That's
you. I thought of you.
That is, it is very important that people understand and appreciate the rules help to enforce it, because the people who don't want to obey the rules think that you're gonna be on their side. And they need to know that if they're breaking the rules, that the community is gonna hold them
How
accountable.
did you do it, Clinton, after that gate has been open, how would you?
I've got pictures that would make you happy of people right by the gate with their dogs.
I know you don't like the dog, no, the dogs are your, kind of sticking point, but, overall, I
Well-
haven't heard any.
Well, what I will tell you is, it's interesting to see, the flow of people, the movement of people. Through, obviously, it's very, very different. But that's to be expected. I was a little disappointed to see,
The dogs.
yes, not surprised, but.
Also, I know we wrote a letter about this and it's been a bit of a problem, I think in all the parks, but mostly Dewey Clinton, because it has that back space that's kind of dark. Of the smoking, the drugs at night and
Yes.
stuff, and I know it's hard because you guys are short staffed, especially at night. But I wanted to know if you guys have witnessed any of that still, and I'm guessing as it gets colder, that won't be as big of a problem, but still, it was there the other night, so.
Well, what I will tell you is this, smoking is up everywhere. I see it at DeWitt during the day.
Oh, I know, yeah,
I see it at Chelsea
I know,
all the time. So nighttime, obviously, and it's after work, so people, it's Miller
Yeah.
time. So, so it's not entirely surprising. I think that overall it's a problem. And, I call it in when I can. I call it in when I can. I think that it's an enforcement issue. And I hope that as our new PEP officers finish the academy and are really put out in full force, we'll be able to more effectively enforce.
wait, did you just bury the lead?
Yeah, are there?
What do you mean you PEP officers? We've been asking for PEP officers. We've got-
My understanding, so I, sometimes I'm just like you guys too, I read stuff.
Because I think there's only 5 for all southern,
That's, my understanding is that there are new PEP officers coming online.
in addition to the 5 we
In
have.
addition to the 5, there's more, because there was something on the webpage, there were some of them at the academy on our intranet webpage. But they're in the academy. It's not gonna be 500, but there are more coming. Because the issue for me is also, just as you say, it's in the afternoon into the evening when people are there. So, and as we also know, the inappropriate behavior also changes during the time of the day. During the day, it might be, dogs on lawns or dogs on ball fields during the
Right.
day. And then in the afternoon, it's smoking, and even kids smoking also.
No, it's a little more nefarious that.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So everybody knows that I want some folks, from 4 to 8 in the evening.
So now that you open that up, I'm just curious, when you say the academy, that's for all of New York City, I'm guessing. Will we see any in our district or it hasn't been assigned yet? Or-
When I said the academy, it is my understanding that, so obviously, so. This is my understanding, this is not coming out of the book. I do know that PEP officers take some training at the NYPD with police, at the police academy. And I imagine that the web picture was out at Passerella because Commissioner was with them. So clearly they were getting training at Parks, but Parks policy,
Right.
et cetera. So that was their, academy training. I asked the question, very casually, during the summer of one of my chiefs, when will the new PEP officers be with us? And he said, and the short answer was when they finish the academy. There was no date, it was like, so clearly there's the process.
And we don't know where they'll be assigned. We have no idea if it's Manhattan, Bronx, we don't know. Us, them.
I don't know, I'm
Okay.
sure they will go throughout the city.
Okay, and then the other thing you touched upon that we also wrote in our letter is that there are no nighttime, the nighttime staff, or I shouldn't say night, yeah, I guess nighttime, but after hours, like 5, 6, 7, 8, there's not really, the staff dwindles, but you just mentioned that PEPs are gonna be for that shift as well, or you don't know that?
I don't know that.
Okay,
You can say that there was a particular number that has been announced, just that they exist, some number.
Some number exists, more than 5.
staff,
I don't know.
Somewhere between the six.
That is, I think that's our one of our big asks on our budget list.
Nighttime pep or nighttime staff?
Both park staff, which I know you guys prioritize when we talk to Steve, we have PEP, so it's a 1-2 type of thing.
And see, that's the other thing. See, to my thinking, if you have the park houses, it's easier to staff at all sorts of odd hours.
Yes.
So,
I have one last question, I'm sorry, Joey Clinton, what time does the bathroom close? We wrote about this last time, too.
let's see, oh gosh, it's seasonal. It's 9 o'clock.
Oh, it is that late, cause I remember.
It's either, you know what? It's either 7 or, no, I think it's 7
I think it's 7, only because the problems we were having.
with the ball field.
The ball fields are in use with permitted use until like 11, 12 at night, and the bathroom closes at 7.
So here's the practical answer. So technically they close at 7 o'clock. District 5, my other district, because of Union Square and the concession that is there,
Mhm.
we have a nighttime crew. That's because we can't have outside people building. Only because, you know, it's a responsibility issue, but also, you know, what are they gonna do? So we have a crew that's there. We have actually always had, I guess, night crew in a variety of parks, District 5. So that crew, that's the night crew at Union, does the lockup in District 4. So they clean the bathrooms and they lock them and they close them. And then the smaller playgrounds, Penn South, Aponte, those get locked up. And there is some partial lockup at Chelsea. And we also lock the field over at DeWitt. What will happen is, because we wait till the permits are over, they will, when it's practical possible, they will leave the bathrooms open until they lock the field. But that is not written in stone. You do that as if it's practical to do so.
What is, like, being practical?
Well, you know,
If like someone is there, like.
you know, if somebody, yes, if they're definitely, if it's permitted, we try to do that, because we have to clean up any mess people leave behind also.
Yeah.
So, you know, we try to leave them open as long as possible, but the official close-up time, I believe, it's
7. Yeah, cause you know how heavily there are a lot of people on those fields, a lot.
You know, I agree with you. I think it would be great to have a late crew there.
So it would.
I did in fact propose, when there was several years ago, when we were getting all this money for whatever it was, I wanted to have a mid-shift crew that would have an APSW, would come on 2:30, get to 2:30 to 11, and have a crew with him precisely for that purpose. They'd be out of Chelsea, and they would monitor the fields, and they could help, you know, with the bathroom. So,
Anyone else, questions for Parks? No? Janine, do we have anyone in the public that would like that has a question or a comment for Parks?
No, there's no hands up.
Okay, that's it.
next one.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Paul. Okay, we have Gateway. Welcome, Gateway. We're happy there. Update.
Before we get started, Janine, are you able to either share with me the Wi-Fi or share the deck that I sent you today? Okay,
Yeah, I could pull up the presentation.
that would be amazing, thank you.
Leslie, can I just explain to the group, my employer Amtrak is a project partner and a funder of the Hudson project, so.
So you must leave the room, is that what you're saying? No, I'm just-
Or no, I probably just will stay there
Yes.
voting on it, and I just wanna make sure I'm aware of that.
Great.
Want to jump in?
Yeah, sure.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be here in person. I think we've presented a few times virtually before. And so my name is Rebecca Zach. I'm the Senior Director of Government and Community Affairs with the Gateway Development Commission. To my right is Emma Solar. She's the Manhattan Community Coordinator. We also have some subject matter experts on the line. We'll be jumping in with the deck. I'm going to do a few slides. We're going to do a few of us are going to talk. So we appreciate the opportunity to update you today. So Janine, next slide. Thank you for running the deck. Janine, we appreciate it. Here's our agenda. I'm gonna give a basic overview, GDC. I know a lot of you know that, but for anyone who hasn't seen before, really quick. Some engagement to date. Guy Shiba, who's on the Zoom, is gonna be talking about marine temporary structures. Andy Mankey, who was also there, is gonna be talking about the draft bikeway, walkway relocation plans. And also the draft 12th Avenue lane shifts. Emma's gonna be talking about environmental impacts, mitigation, timeline for engagement with key stakeholders, excuse me. Next slide. Next slide. And just in case anyone isn't aware, the Hudson Tunnel project is called the most critical infrastructure project in the country. We are building 9 miles of new passenger rail track. And not only that, we're gonna be rehabbing the existing 115-year-old North River Tunnel, North River tunnels. So the new tunnels will be operating by 2035 and the rehab will be done in 2038. We are in heavy active construction right now as we speak, and we'll get into a little bit more about that in the next slide. This gives kind of a broad overview moving west to east of all the active construction we have going on right now. And I know we're in New York City right now, but we have an entire state on the other side of the river who has a lot of construction going on right now. So moving west, we have what is called the Tunnelly Avenue Bridge Utility and Relocation project. This will be wrapping up by the end of this year, is almost substantially complete. And moving towards North Bergen and Weehawken through New Jersey, we have awarded and is heavily in construction right now, what is called the Palisades Tunnel Project. And that is the project that will start tunnel boring. And then if you move down to Weehawken, what is called the Hudson County Shaft. Right there, they are building a shaft in the middle of the neighborhood that's called the Shades neighborhood. You have the shaft that's being built and the TBM will come out of that. And then I don't think I need to highlight the Hudson River Ground Stabilization Project because it's right there, kind of outside our door in the river. But that is strengthening the soil in the river that we like to call is the consistency of chocolate pudding. We have a coffer dam out there, which is pretty exciting work. We have Hudson Yards concrete casing, section 3, sections 1 and 2 have been completed. This will be done in November of 2026. And the one that we've been really talking to you the most about is called the Manhattan Tunnel Project. That is on block 675, goes across 12th Avenue and it's in Hudson River Park. The last time we were here was in April. And we were talking about landside and waterside impacts in the park. And that's where we'll be focusing a lot here and on 12th Avenue. Next slide. This is your view of what is happening where you are. So we have the Hudson River Ground Stabilization there in the water. You see the white box tracks coming in, the tunnels coming in, Hudson River Park staging area. You can see that outline of where that is across 12th Avenue, block 675, the staging on 29th Street. You have the HYCC3 along 30th, and then the Hudson Yards concrete casing, and then that will connect into Penn Station. Where the tunnels will, and then 10th Avenue, the 10th Avenue fan plant. We'll have work going on there too. Next slide. A lot of you have been involved in this engagement in the past, but just gives kind of a brief overview and timeline of where we've been discussing. We have done two 4F processes with you. This is when there's impacts within a park and the federal government wants us to do a process, and that's called 4F. So we did that in 2024, we did that again in 2025. We've had lots of conversations with Leslie and Jesse and others about what might be some community benefits that we could help build out. I think what we're expecting, Leslie, this year is maybe later on a letter from you guys, like asking us to run down, and then, that'll be a really active conversation. I think that will take some time to get through, but we're committed to wanting to be as creative and as fun as possible. Next slide. And I know you guys have a tremendous relationship with Noreen and Christine and everybody in Hudson River Park. I really cannot stress what an incredible stakeholder they have been with us. We have weekly meetings with them, sometimes more than once a week. They are incredibly generous with their expertise and time. They have been vital in terms of providing feedback to us and now to the contractor about, you know, the real life day-to-day of what that park is like. I mean, we all know how active that is. I was there the other night. We were there the other night briefing the Hudson River Park Advisory Council, if I have that right. And, you know, it's been a minute since I live in Brooklyn and, I miss Manhattan to be able to afford that. But anyway, you know, I was like, gosh, it is tremendous to me how many people run at 9 o'clock at night. I just, you know, I don't know about you, but I'm doing the Netflix part of my day usually at that part. So, but I just like appreciate the heavy activity of all these much more robust, much more energetic people than I have anymore. So, you know, we recognize what a dynamic space this is, and we want to be as thoughtful as we can. Obviously, we have very complicated engineering and construction that needs to happen, so that requires a lot of creative thinking, and Guy and Andy are going to get into a lot of that. Next slide. What you saw in April 2025, we proposed modifications, particular in Hudson River Park, the land side and the water side. Key modifications since April 2025. The ground stabilization in Hudson River Park, in the park and across 12th Avenue. The ground stabilization at the bulkhead, longer duration of construction in the park, and the modified construction footprint, a little bit more space. Next slide. This is kind of the most extreme example in this slide that we went over with you in 2025. You have the bike and pedestrian path at the very edge, and you have the 12th Avenue lanes kind of shifting sequentially. Andy is going to be going into much more particulars of how some of this have changed in terms of width and some spacing and some timing, but we wanted to remind you of kind of the most extreme example that we provided back in April, and we'll get into a lot more of what has changed since then. Next slide. Oh, and then also when it comes to the marine temporary structure that Guy is going to be talking about, at the time we said there'd be some type of platform or bulkhead or something straddling the bulkhead. Now we actually have a conceptual plan, a little bit more detail to show you what that will look like over the bulkhead. Next slide. So I'm gonna hand it off to Guy here. He's gonna go through the marine temporary structure. Thank you for this time in the beginning, and we'll keep going. Thank you.
And before Guy gets started, I'll just introduce a little bit,
Thank
yeah, no problem, of what is happening in the water already. You guys already know this, but we have been working in the water for about 1.5 years on the Hudson River Ground Stabilization Project. Yeah, so that's I just threw these pictures on to provide context, because you guys have probably seen this if you're in the park or whatever, on water. On the left is a picture of the active operation of Hudson River Ground Stabilization. So in the back is the coffer dam, which is being used to stabilize the ground. And then in the front is our newer pile pulling operation, which is removing piles from the footprint from Pier 68. And then on the right, I just threw in an aerial as well to show you sort of like, I think this will be more relevant as we get on to new information about what we're gonna be putting in this area, but sort of the marine temporary structure is gonna go between the easternmost sort of area of construction that we have going on and the bulkhead. So it can kind of show you a little bit of like what's out there and what will come. But I'll hand it over to Guy, but just wanted to introduce what's currently happening.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Emma.
Hey,
So,
Guy, before you go, I'm sorry, Janine, can you hear me, Janine?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I believe Robert Atterbury is on. Do you just mind moving him over just in case you would
Okay.
like to? Thank you. Sorry, Guy, go ahead.
sure, thank you. So, hello, everyone. My name is Guy Shiba. I'm the Design Engineering Manager for Delve Underground. We're the designer for the design builder. And I'm going to talk to you today about the marine temporary structure. And if we can skip to the next slide, it will be great. Thank you for the great introduction, Emma, of the area. So GDC's contractor, which is us, as part of the design build, will install a marine temporary structure in order to facilitate the works. So in this dashed blue rectangle, you can see in black sort of the footprint of the marine temporary structure, how it will look, and we have some visualizations in the next slide. the next couple of slides maybe. This deck will allow for us to install pipes into the ground in order to freeze the ground under us and allow for tunneling. The area that's highlighted in cyan is the freeze area, and the area in orange is the jet grouted area, and the green area, as you guys suspected, is the shaft that we're going to excavate as part of the 12th Avenue shaft construction. And the construction has already started to pick up, and it will pick up more in Q3 and Q1 of 2026. That's the timeline. And as we go into Q4, it will pick up more. And the platform, the marine temporary structure, and the two chiller platforms on either side, which are kind of hard to see here, you'll see it better in the next slide. They'll be in place until 2028 to allow for the operations of tunneling. With regards to safety, we're coordinating with the U.S. Coast Guard, Army Corps of Engineering, HRPT, as Rebecca noted. We have very frequent meetings with them, and GDC are also very helpful with all the coordination, as well as the DEC and all the entities you have here for the required permits. Next slide, please. This is a better footprint of a marine temporary structure and the two chiller platforms on either side, as well as the work area roughly in the park. Please note that these measurements are approximate and the dimensions are approximate. The MTS, as we call it, the marine temporary structure, that's pretty well fixed. It's 120 feet, spanning, hovering over the bulkhead on one side, sitting on the ground, and on the other side, sitting on what we call dolphins. You'll see it in the next slide. And on either side, we have chiller platforms that these can range in dimensions as we know what will be available at the time we want to rent that equipment. I've been told that because of July 4th, you can't rent too many marine vessels, but July 4th has passed and there's still a big problem to get marine vessels here in New York. Next slide, please. I think this is what I've been building up for. This is a nice illustration of how it will look pretty much. You can see the dolphins on piles inside the water with a rail beam one on the inshore and one on over the river over the dolphins. These two rail beams will both facilitate what we like to call the dance floor, which is the hatch pattern you see under. That will support all the freeze pipes and allow for all the operations to take place. And on top of that, as a upper level, we'll have two movable bridges on which drill rigs will sit to facilitate drilling of the piles into the ground, under the Hudson, and inside the mudline, into the clay, in order to freeze that area, that volume in which we need to tunnel through. On either side, you can see the chiller barges, the chiller platforms. They'll be sitting there in place with gangways connecting them to the dance floor. So this is where we'll locate the chillers, and we'll have manifolds running, connecting all of the freeze pipes and through the gangways going into the chiller barges, with brine circulating as a closed system in order to freeze the ground. So we don't actively insert anything into the ground other than the pipes themselves. They're a closed contained system in which the brine circulates, and that basically attracts the heat from the ground into the brine, which is then circulated and chilled back. Just for visualization, I don't know if it's easy enough to see, but we have a nice illustration of the drill rig itself sitting on one of the movable bridges. It's going to be approximately 25 feet tall, but then again, it all depends on what will be available at the time of execution.
We understand sometimes getting this equipment is can be challenging, that type of specialized equipment. So, we learn about that stuff too, which is interesting. Sorry, guy, just want to add that.
Perfect timing. I think that's all I got. I think you have one more slide, maybe, Emma, on the marine temporary structure.
Yep. Can you go to the next slide?
Next slide.
froze a little bit.
Okay, come on, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Guy. I have a slide about voter safety and engagement, because I'm not an engineer, but I do engagement. So, yeah, so as I sort of said, we already have construction happening in the water. And we're doing a lot of engagement about that, and we're gonna continue doing all the same things we are doing as part of this new element of in-water construction. There is gonna be solar lighting installed on the marine temporary structures to keep boaters and also, I was gonna say aviators, I don't know, people in the air, say, what's the word for that? Helicopter pilots, thank you. Continuing to work with, the Army Corps and the Coast Guard to follow all of their regulations for all of the work happening in the water, sending out voter safety alerts, updating the notice to mariners, so keep doing all of that stuff. We've also been doing some extra engagement recently. We've been meeting with Hudson River Community Sailing on a monthly basis. Oh, no, that's a question. Don't worry about it. We are planning some educational presentations to their program participants, which will be pretty cool this fall. They have a lot of like future engineers and they've requested that, so we're excited about that. And we're coordinating with ferry and commercial operators. We've heard some reports that they're not like adhering to some of the requests that we've made about traveling in the Western Channel. So we have reached out to them about that. And we'll keep doing all of that stuff. We presented the Hudson River Park Trust voter safety meeting yearly. Always open to more ideas about how we can better engage with the community, but yeah, we know it's really important. It's a really dynamic place, the water in Hudson River.
You can't paint any lines on the water. You can't create a lane, like it's pretty difficult.
Yeah, this is a really naive question, but how is the tunnel being installed? Is it being bored under the river or is it being dropped in and prefabricated?
Board.
Bored, and then why is the marine temporary structure and the freezing required only at the shore?
Guy, would you wanna say anything? Did you hear that question?
Yep, happy to respond. The marine temporary structure is required for us to extend the tunnel all the way across from the bulkhead and basically go after and clear any obstruction for the 2 TBMs that are going to come, tunnel boring machines that will come from the Jersey side. We are going to freeze the ground between the edge of our contract or the edge of our project all the way to the curb line of 12th Avenue. And the rest, as I kind of glossed over, the orange areas in the first slide, that area is going to be jet grouted. But all the ground needs to be improved because it's all reclaimed land from 150 years ago. It's all fill. So
yeah,
not the best ground.
No, and to really clarify it, we'll build the tunnel, but our tunnel we build from that shaft out into the river is actually a tunnel for the tunnel boring machine to then go through to connect into the shaft. So we're basically clearing a path for those 2 future tunnel boring machines to come through because of all the obstructions that have been placed in this area over those 150 years.
We saw a pile getting pulled, like they pulled a pile and this has been in there for forever, right? And you just couldn't even believe that. Like, I mean, I'm the same thing. I'm not, and it's not like you often see that, like piles being pulled, and it was huge, and it like came out in
25
1
feet
piece.
tall, yeah.
Oh.
And you just think something, so.
You would think it would be like, oh, sorry, Rebecca. You would think it'd be like a telephone. You would think it'd be like a telephone pole. It's really like a tree with the branches cut off, and it starts out at about 11 inches at the top, and then could narrow down to about 4 inches, 6 to 4 inches. So it's definitely not what you would think of a modern pier, obviously, because it was built in the 1800s.
But I was just surprised that it just doesn't fall apart, right? And they were saying there's no oxygen, it will stay together. I'm sorry, you had your hand up.
Yeah, this is a long way from Penn Station, but is all of this work compatible with through running down the line?
So we, I think Penn State, Amtrak is best to speak to that. We are a bi-state agency that is created to build our tunnel. And those discussions will continue. But we're focused on the packages that we have under our purview to do.
But as far as you know, would it be compatible with through running?
From Ben, I don't know if Ben or anybody wants to say anything more about through running.
Yeah, so our project is designed to work with Penn Station. It's designed to interact with Penn Station. So as Rebecca said, through running or Penn Station reconstruction, expansion, any of those things, it's not part of our legislation. But we're making sure that we can connect to Penn Station and operate in the operating environment in which Penn Station has. So, whatever happens within Penn Station, that's for others to decide, or on either side of Penn Station. But what we're doing is providing this resiliency project. So whatever is decided with Penn Station, the new tunnel, and the rehabbed North River tunnel will be able to serve the public.
Yes. Okay, I hope so. Thank you.
Maybe a lot of TBD there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right, next slide, Janine, thank you.
Right, so I'm gonna jump in and speak a little bit about the bike lane and pedestrian
Hey,
paths
Andy,
that are.
could you introduce yourself real quick? Just, I know I did, but just as a reminder to who you are, thank
He's
you.
not
That's
Emma
okay,
Solar.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't have
Nope.
3 Emma Solars that you can see. This is Emma
Yeah.
Solar, this is the real one. There's.
I was gonna introduce myself as Emma Solar. Okay,
Yeah.
gosh, all right, you called my bluff. No, I'm Andy Mankey. I'm with Delve Underground. We're the lead designer for the design build team working on our Frontier Kemper, and I'm the civil engineer on the job. So definitely intimately involved with a lot of the topics that we're going to talk about next in terms of the bike ped lane shifts that we're looking at, as well as the roadway shifts. So I'm going to start with the ped and bike lane adjustments. Up on the screen right now is a series of stages of how we plan to implement them. We'll go into the details of what these stages look like in the next few slides, but just gives everybody a little bit of context of when these stages are going to be implemented. Like I said, stage 1 is a pretty minimal impact, but you can see stage 2 is kind of the first time where we have a bigger impact. And that's we're targeting currently right now is Q1. And so that's why kind of getting out and talking with folks a little bit more and getting input allows us to take that input and to implement it. In addition to speaking to this group tonight, there's a number of other stakeholders that we've been coordinating with that are on the screen, including both the DOTs as well as HRPT, providing us input along the way to make sure that we get all those all the lessons learned that a lot of these agencies have had dealing with any detours in this area over the years, to take those into consideration. And then final bullet there is just the trees. That's come up in some of our discussions to date. There's a pretty short stint of tree removal that'll happen along this corridor, both within the center median of 12th as well as the portion of the bikeway that aligns 12th. And those trees will get removed in the interim, but they'll all be replaced at the conclusion of the job. So next slide. So this is stage 1. This is going to be implemented over the course of the next 3 to 4 months. And really, it's no change. The existing conditions of the peds and bikes that are out there right now that's shown in yellow. The main change is that the work area shown in blue is going to extend slightly to the south. That's going to help provide some additional staging area, as you can imagine, trying to build a large infrastructure project in such a dense urban environment. Staging area is pretty tough to come by. And so we've been able to work with parks to expand a little bit to the south and still provide the full ped width that is currently out there right now to go around that area and then continue to the park to the south. The bike lanes remain in place. As for truck logistics, you can see in green, the trucks will be entering into the work zone from from the southbound lanes, heading the south. They'll traverse through the site and then leave the site at an existing gate that is already out there. So there's really no security elements that are changed during this interim condition. So once again, very minimal impacts to how things are operating out there right now. Next slide.
If I can ask, I'm sorry, I know we talked about this, and we wrote, this was included in our letter about just access points and length of time. Has it changed since then, or is this pretty much the same plan? Or are there any big changes here that we should know about?
The plan has changed.
Well,
This
what
time.
elements of, what
The
access
bike,
points?
just, I mean, the bike lane and stuff, because I know Christine is on just for something else, but Christine is the co-chair of our transportation planning committee, so it's. Christine, I don't know if you have any, I mean, we can ask questions at the end if you want, but I don't know if this was, if anything was, red flagging to you.
No, I mean, the only red line there is the safety and the flagging, how you are going to be directed, but I presume you will have a normal education for those people, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Correct.
And on the map, the resolution's a little fuzzy, but where, like, at what, like, southern point does the bulkhead side work zone end?
Around 29th Street, is that where you're at, like,
So the top is,
the top is 30th and then the
Okay.
bottom is 29th.
Okay,
So there's about a short walk.
okay,
Yeah.
it's that.
And the majority of that is currently or previously in the heliport, and like a small bit of it is outside of that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All
Sorry.
right. Oh, you guys are fine. This is good. I love active discussion.
It's like easy little pictures.
No,
and
no,
it's a lot
now
out
that you
there.
said it, it
I
makes
know,
sense,
I know.
but I was like, is it going further south?
No.
Yeah, no. So what you see on the screen now is what we plan to implement in the first quarter of next year. This is going to be stage 2. As Guy described, there's a series of freeze pipes that have to be installed from that curb line at 12th to the west. And so to be able to do that, we need to relocate the bikes and peds for a short-term duration. Where at that point we'll be working in that roadway side work zone primarily to install those pipes. Most of the truck traffic will be entering in a similar way from 12th heading southbound and then coming out at the southern end of it. There is a mid-block crossing that you can see with the green arrows there that is going to be implemented on what I call low volume. I've learned that there is no off-peak time for this pedestrian bikeway. It's very highly used, and so instead of trying to use the term off-peak, I've been educated to the point of enough of these discussions to use low volume. But in general, that would be happening, in the middle of the night, essentially, when folks are less, there's less volume of folks on there. The one thing I would point out that with a lot of the turns and things like that, we'll have delineators. If you go to the next slide of how it'll look kind of section wise.
Can you stay
There you
on
go.
for 1 second?
Yep.
Go back to the other one. So what is happening in this stripe section to the right?
That is the limits of like the ground improvement zone. So you're talking about within that roadway side work, the beige color where it's like a little
Yes.
more striped. Yeah,
Yes.
that's where they're gonna have drill rigs installing freeze pipes into the ground.
I see. And then the volume, you say less than 15 trucks per day. So the volume, that includes the back and forth in the middle?
Yeah, so one of the nice things is that because of the marine temporary structure that's out there, there'll be a crane on that as well as a crane on the land side, the blue area. And we're going to look to barge a lot of equipment in, and that's going to reduce a lot of the truck traffic that'll be going on in this area.
So what is the volume that is going to go back and forth between the two zones?
Oh, I'm so sorry. The back and forth between the two zones would be 2 to 3 trucks every other night type thing, right? It's the blue zone. If you go back a step, just so that everybody can kind of get the idea, when you're in stage 1, you're really you're installing a lot of the pipes in that zone during that period of time. And so you ultimately kind of create a bifurcated site a little bit, right? Because you've got all these freeze pipes that come above grade. So it's more for just the occasional pickup truck to go over and pick something up or move something around, things like that. So it's a very low frequency, but nonetheless, I want to make sure people are aware of it so that when they hear about it or there's concerns about it, we can take those into consideration as we set up our crossing. Yep. So we can go back to stage 2, and that's going forward a slide, if you got it, Janine.
And you said the gray is going to be in the roadway. That means it's going to go all the way to the median.
Yeah, so this area is just for the freeze pipe and how we move
Yeah, the
the
next-
PEDs and bikes around. And then the roadway part will be it'll be the next set of slides, and I'll show you how we dance through the roadway portion of it.
Next.
Okay, and then go one more slide for me.
Oh, okay.
So here's the general cross section of what the bike and ped lane would look like during this short-term duration. So basically, we'll have a Jersey barrier to separate the peds and the cyclist, and then through feedback with a lot of our partners, there'll be a delineator, you know, the flight stick delineators between the actual two bike lanes. We understand that there's a lot of bad biking behavior in terms of people wanting to pass slow cyclists, things like that. And so in these curved areas, we're really going to set up delineators on a pretty tight spacing to mitigate that, as well as signage appropriately. So that's in the works, but that's the general kind of high level concept of what's going on with stage 2.
But
And
the
then-
roadway side
Yep, go
work,
ahead.
where is it?
Oh, I'm sorry, Christine, what was that?
The roadway side work zone, where
At that point, the roadway side work, it could be right up against that work zone. It could be out in the middle of the street. It's completely independent of what's going on with these shifts in terms of they're not interlinked, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay. So the reason why this is a short term is the goal is to get the work done in the beige area. And then if you go to the next slide, stage 3 is the long-term condition that we would look to implement for the duration of the freezing and tunneling. Because the idea is that we want to get our peds and cyclists back into kind of their original corridor that they're used to. And so that's what we're able to accomplish with having that shorter duration, tight turn sweeps, get them back to this condition. But the big hang up on this is that due to the freeze pipes themselves that have to be installed in that area over the tunnel to create the competent material for our tunnel to go through, the freeze pipes have to extend up above grade and then have those a manifold and the brine pipes that interconnect to run the solution down on the ground to freeze the ground. And to do that, you can't put your pedestrians and bikes at grade. So there's a slight ramp that goes up approximately 2 feet, 24 inches. It's over about 40 feet so that we can remain ADA compliant. And that would be done on either side of that ground improvement area and come back down to grade on either side. If you go to the next slide, it gives you kind of a general idea. This is the 24-inch lift that would be is the maximum height, right? That would be right over those freeze pipes. I did my best with my blue beam sketching, but the red lines are the freeze pipes. But if the conditions out there, that curb that's along 12th that actually doesn't get disturbed, that'll be there throughout the life of the project. It's a 20-inch high curb. So that gives you kind of some general context of what's going on. And then at the bottom of this figure, this just shows you a 6-foot high cyclist kind of going over this 2-foot high ramp. So just kind of gives you a little bit of an idea. You got 40 feet up, and then you're basically flat for the 100 feet over the work, you know, that freeze zone where the pipes are, and then 40 feet back down on the other side. And that is the bike and pedestrian shifts. I can stop and take questions now, or we could keep going to the roadway shifts.
We have some questions in the room, if that's okay.
Yeah, fire away.
Wouldn't you need kind of a longer ramp approach to maintain a 5% pitch so it's not a ramp for people in wheelchairs?
Yeah, so it's laid out so that it's like 4.75. And so 5%, you can't go more than 24 inches. Unless, and then once you go above 24 inches, then you need a stop, like a landing for them to rest to then go additional height. And so that's why, you know, the 2 feet over the 40 feet gives you that 5%. So the math kind of, if you went right with 5%, you just need 40 feet, but it'll be a little bit longer just because I never trust everybody to build it perfectly.
Okay, so you're adding a factor of safety, that's good.
Yeah.
And what are the delineators made out of?
They're just the plastic delineators that are down, you know, basically put on the ground. You know, you see them. I could follow up with some kind of details of what they look like, but I call them candlesticks. Oh, I'm sorry, Christine, go ahead.
Right.
You mean they
they're
are
like the
flexible?
Yeah,
reflective.
flexible. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we don't want anybody to get injured, but we definitely want to make sure people aren't going too quick through that area.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Two quick questions. So with respect to stage 3, given the chronicity of the cooling that's going to be taking place, is there also a plan to protect this deck, this bikeway deck, from creating adverse conditions due to weather? Like, is it gonna be cold and you're gonna get icy conditions because it rained? And then the second question I had was in stage 2, it looks like the pedestrian bike path is going to be slightly isolated. And I'm curious if there's any plans with respect to security, and whether or not, you know, the security will be present to prevent anything happening, you know, late at night.
Great. Yeah, great question. The security late at night question I can't answer, but in terms of the security for, you know, protecting the peds and cyclists that are going to be using it'd be similar to what is already out there. We'll have bollards that we add to make sure that vehicles can't traverse up and down the bike or ped paths, to protect folks in that run. The isolation through that corridor is there. It's a good comment. We definitely can take that back and talk a little bit more about that one for stage 2. As for stage 3, the concern about freezing the deck from the freeze pipes, that's not so much a concern, but you're right in terms of the weather and how we're going to maintain that. And we're working closely with HRPT in terms of how they currently maintain the path and make sure that, for example, their snow removal equipment still has the ability to access this to remove snow. And in addition, I know that because it's right next to our work site, it'll be a point of emphasis for the contracting team to make sure that corridor remains clean of not only ice, but of debris and other things to make sure that the traveling public is as safe as they can be throughout the life of the job.
Thank you.
Yep.
Did you say what material the ramp will be made out of?
I don't have a material for you, but it will not be a steel sheet like you see out in the middle of the street sometimes, where you have the real narrow bikes, and definitely is a huge hazard. I've worked on a lot of these types of projects across the United States, and I've seen some bad practices. Let's just put it that way. So definitely putting a traction friendly all weather type surface out there to ensure that not only the peds, but especially the cyclists are safe going up and down those ramps as well as across it.
Yeah, thank you. I think that anticipated my concern there. My second question is whether any lighting will be changed or added in stages 2 or 3 for the pedestrian and bike paths, particularly where trucks have a means of crossing that space. I'm not necessarily talking about traffic lights, but just lighting that improves the visibility. I don't know if there's any information as to what that will look like at night and, you know, like what people will be able to see.
Yeah, that's a great comment. We are planning on lighting that corridor, and that does help kind of with the security question that was brought up earlier. We've talked about limitations in lighting in terms of do you get complaints of being too lit up in this area? And no one had any, no. So basically what'll happen is the contractor will be looking to light up their work areas because they're going to be working a lot. And that light will be set up to also support providing a well-lit corridor through, especially stage 2, as well as stage 3, right? We worked with HRPT. They have lighting standards that they want for the path, right? In this area, it gets a little bit granular because you have a little bit of DOT overlap with HRPT in terms of lighting. We'll make sure that the holistic plan meets the lighting criteria and actually probably exceeds it, because not only for the peds and bikers that are out there, but it's the workers that are out there too, right? They're going to want to make sure that they have a well-lit work site. So I'm planning to hopefully not get in trouble for having too much light on the site.
Well, we can Goldilocks, like, might need to tweak, but, there's a Goldilocks approach to things like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else in the room? So I know this has anyone too. So,
I asked this question last night.
gotcha. Lisa, I saw your hand was up.
Most of my questions were answered. I just wanted to confirm that the length of the route is the whole block.
No,
Or is
it
it
doesn't end
shorter?
up. Yeah, it's shorter, Lisa. So you're able to come back down to grade prior to getting into any of the pedestrian east-west movements that you see. So we maybe could delineate that a little bit better in future discussions to just show exactly that you can look at the extents of the tunnel. Maybe Janine can show, but the gray lines that are moving in east to west kind of that's the width of the tunnel, and then you got to go about 12 feet on either side, and so that's the straight 100-foot section, and then you just got 40 feet on either side. On the north side, it's pretty wide and clear. The south side, it gets a little bit congested, but we're working through that with the team. So
Okay, thank you.
yep.
Great, I think you can move on.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, let's get into the next phase. That's the oh, and actually before we get to that, I do want to just take one moment in terms of how do we get rebuilt bike path, right? Our final condition. So if you can imagine, when we are working in this stage 3, eventually we'll need to reestablish the bike path. And what we'll do is we'll basically shift the bike path in a very similar manner that we did in stage 2 to create what would be stage 4. We would then be able to go into the existing bike area, restore that whole condition, and then turn it back over to the public. They would have their permit condition. Then we'd go to what would be stage 5, and we would clean up the rest of the heliport and be able to give everybody back basically what they started with. That's the goal. So just that's been a question that people have asked, is how are you going to get it rebuilt? So wanted to touch on that one. Sorry. All right. Next one. All right, so this is the 12th Avenue lane shifts. Go to the next slide. So basically, over the next couple of years, we talked a little bit about the parks because that's where the ground freezing is going on. That has unique challenges with ground improvement. That using jet grout, it needs to be installed from the surface. It's basically jetted into the ground to improve the ground down there. And to be able to do that, you need to as best you can be vertically over the work zone. Despite asking the state if I could close down all 7 lanes of traffic, they said no. I was a little bit disappointed in that response, but so as a result, if you've been in the area recently, we're working on removing the center median, and the center median removal allows us to what my Minnesotan in me loves to call it the ice rink. So affectionately, you're just from curb to curb, you've got a flat asphalt or concrete, depending on where the work zones are, but you have a flat driving surface that to get across the lanes, you'll move those lanes around to create the work zones. But as a result of it, we are going to be closing the eastern sidewalk on 12th that runs along the shaft. In addition, the northern sidewalk that crosses from along 29th that crosses 12th. The northern sidewalk is is not that big of a deal in terms that we've already closed that northern sidewalk going back 29th. For those of you that are familiar with that, that's been implemented out there already. So this is just a continuation of that kind of closed sidewalk. But the eastern one, we did do some studies to ensure that the ped volumes were minimal, which they are. And so in theory, it's not that large of an impact, but I'm definitely happy to hear from folks. And then the pedestrian refuges that are currently out there are going to be maintained as we bounce around. I mentioned the trees earlier. So with that, we can jump to stage 1 to kind of give you the visual depiction of how this will look. Next slide, please. So with the removal of the center median, basically what will happen is the 3 southern lanes will remain in their current condition, and we'll push the northern lanes over to create the light blue area for the jet route to be installed, moving away from the shaft. The pedestrian routes you'll see will be maintained throughout the life of the project. That's important to me to make sure that our traveling public are familiar with what they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And we try to avoid changing that condition over the life of the job. So you'll see those purple arrows for pedestrians moving east to west across 12th be maintained throughout the life of the job. And as you can imagine, while we install jet route in that sidewalk area that I mentioned closing, that would be very difficult to maintain. With that being said, the next stage, when you jump to that, you'll see we jump across the street. Next slide, please. So when we jump to the other side of the street, we shove everything back to the east and reestablish the 4 lanes that are northbound and the 3 lanes that are southbound. And the subsequent I'm losing my I need my water. I ran out. Sorry. But as we move across the road, basically all we're doing is shifting lanes back and moving our work zone to the east. So when you go from stage 2 to stage 3, next slide, you can just see it slide over. And then you go from stage 3 to stage 4, it just bounces over. One more slide, please. And then from stage 4 to stage 5, we'll bounce you one more slide, please. Now, during this operation, we've talked internally, with all construction jobs, there may be a need to not move 2 lanes at once, and we're only going to move 1, or, and we've been trying to, I guess, sleuth out the what ifs of the condition. So when I talk about these 5 stages, it may be 4, it may be 6, but the concept will remain the same in the sense that we'll get that first stage set up, we'll establish that second one, and then we'll work our way across the roadway. So that is what I had to share, but I'm sure my friends Rebecca and Emma and Laura will tell me what I forgot to share, but maybe not.
That was pretty good.
I think, yeah.
You're an expert, Andy.
You shared all the secrets, Andy.
All right.
Good job, thank you. Are there any questions in the room about 12th Avenue and shifting? When the lanes shift over, do they going between stages, do they close down 12th Avenue for a couple hours period? I don't know, Andy?
Yeah, so how it works is that you basically will do the jet route work in that work zone, right? And that will displace, you'll have to take some of that concrete pavement out, things like that. You'll finish doing the jet route work. Then you're going to pave over it with asphalt. You're going to come back with the asphalt. And then you're ready to reestablish the lane. And that's what we call a short-term maintenance of traffic condition, where you're going to stripe over a period of time to move the cars into the new lanes, right? And so it's an overnight operation. There's no closure to the roadway, but it's just it's a timed effort to get those new lanes established, because you've now, once, you're just kind of moving them around. But there's no closure at any time of the lanes. The reason being is that it's just a really high capacity corridor, right? We removed one of the overhead signs that was there to indicate where to go for the tunnel. And I'm blanking out what tunnel it is, but it was a traffic sign anyway. It's a cantilever sign, came over northbound lanes, and that closed.
Lincoln.
That was all. Yeah, thank you. So the Lincoln Tunnel sign cantilevered over the lanes, and anyway, lots of impact, right? There's cars on that roadway all the time. So closing down the roadway is not an option. Now, is there occasional lane closures? We've been doing those to date, and those have been coordinated with DOT and in the city to make sure that the capacity is acceptable. And those are really off-peak times. And I feel comfortable saying that in the traffic space, that off-peak in terms of limiting the impact to those high volume periods of time in the early mornings and afternoons when people are returning from work.
And I know this is obvious, but between the state and city DOT, I mean, there's just been intense engagement because of the volume of 12.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyone in the room have questions about I mean, this is really more transportation's kind of realm.
Yeah.
So we're a little out of our order. So Christine, it's so great you're here, just coincidentally. Cause it's really.
I thought it was really well done. Thank you.
Yeah, I wouldn't even write a letter on that. It's not our thing. But do you have any questions or anyone else? No?
And thanks, Christine. That's high praise coming from you, and we very much appreciate that. And we also talked to Charlie the other day too, so.
Yeah.
That made my night. Thank you.
Yeah, what Rebecca's referring to, Gateway briefed us, more.
We want co-chair, I mean, yeah, we
Just
want
a
some,
brief.
you know, we're trying to be as thoughtful as we can, you know? Okay. We can almost wrap it up and you can get to the Port Authority.
Spices. Alright, next,
So, yeah, environmental impacts.
you can go ahead, Janine.
All right, Emma, I think it's you. Yep.
Yep, it's me.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Alright, next slide. So when we presented to the Hudson River Park Advisory Council, there were a number of questions about like environmental mitigations and impacts. So I thought it would make sense to throw in a few slides about that. I think probably people in this room have heard a lot of this before. But just to reemphasize and make sure, you know, we can touch on all these things. As I know trucking is a big concern to this group, which makes a lot of sense in this community. It's a lot of traffic around here. So just reemphasizing that the vast majority of spoils from the tunnel outside of this contract, but generally from the tunnel project, will be removed via New Jersey. And we have a number of restrictions on trucks to make sure that they don't idle in the wrong place or for too long, that they're covered securely, that they don't track dirt off-site, etc. So yeah. Next slide. And in terms of environmental mitigations, we have a whole environmental team, of which Ben Engel, who's on the line, is sort of the head, the expert environmental planner of our team. But yeah, we have a number of different plans in place in case of spills, in case of emergencies or other things that, you know, can happen on construction sites but can't always be anticipated. We're monitoring for noise, vibration, and air. We have a wastewater management plan in place, and there's also a complaint procedure if folks in the neighborhood or that live nearby are having an issue or notice something that seems off. And that will be more information about that later in the steps, but there's a way for folks to reach out to us and say, hey, I think something's not right, and we can respond and check our monitors, etc. Next slide. And this is a map of noise and vibration monitoring. Or I guess this is just noise, but we also have vibration monitoring in place that is installed around the work area. And if the noise levels have exceeded allowable limits, we have a whole process in place to address that. So that is already, you know, we're already putting noise monitors out there. We already can check them. So that is ongoing, and yeah. Next slide. And I guess I'll just keep going through this, and then if there's questions about environmental monitoring or engagement, we can take them at the end. So next slide, Janine. So obviously, we know that Hudson River Park is really heavily used, and so it's really important that we talk to a lot of folks about what's going on, both in meetings like this, but also the general public. And you know, there's a lot of different uses of the park. There's walkers, cyclists, there's a lot of tourists there's our construction crew, so the safety of everyone is of the utmost importance. And just to walk you guys through some of the engagement that we're doing right now, as previously mentioned, on Tuesday, we presented to the Hudson River Park Advisory Council, so now we're spending half of our week together. Today, we're obviously at Community Board 4. We have a regular monthly Manhattan construction task force, which includes all of the relevant elected officials, obviously CB4, Hudson River Park Trust, Friends of the High Line, a number of other stakeholders that meets monthly, and we'll be sharing the same deck with that group later this month. And then we have ongoing public outreach. We distribute construction notices regularly, talking to the press, social media, continuing to talk with all of you. And in particular, we are doing targeted outreach to the cycling community, of which I am personally a member. So it's interesting to me. We can go to the next slide and talk a little bit more about that. So yeah, we know that cyclists are very engaged in their mode of transportation. I can personally attest to that. So we want to make sure that we let folks know what's going to be going on so that they can plan routes accordingly and also just be safe. So, you know, there's like people commuting on this path. There's also people exercising and getting their workout in. There's also deliveristas. It's like a very complex place. So we have this list of organizations and advocacy groups that we're planning to reach out to brief them on specifically the bike and ped changes. If there's anyone on this list or, you know, otherwise that you guys think we're missing or that we should reach out to, please let us know. And we also are going to be posting any construction notices to our website so the general public can check in and see what is happening.
Do you want to have the 5 Borough Bike Club?
I'm not a member of the 5 Borough Bike Club. I'm a member of Social Cycling New York City, which actually meets on
Is that a
Thursday.
thing?
It's a thing, and it's a Thursday night ride, and I may go after this. So.
It's amazing. I'll just say this.
Everybody will be watching Netflix.
It is, yeah. It is incredibly helpful to have
Yeah.
someone who cycles daily. Like, and that's not even like something that I think we even had on the posting in trying to hire this job.
Yeah.
Because she provides very useful feedback.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, but you know, what
I
I
like it all the time.
yeah, so.
Can you add the block associations for outreach?
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
That's, I mean, that's me, that's why I'm,
Oh, okay. No, I don't see it there. Sorry, too.
we didn't think about that for bikes. This
Huh?
is specifically.
Yeah.
Well, but
No,
that's work
but
for me,
couldn't you tell the bike, I mean, like, I don't know any of those, any, all that up there, I have no clue who they are.
I know, it's really hard to get the
Sorry.
individuals. It's fine.
So, but I do know that there's block associations that would get the message out to the
Yeah.
buildings.
Sure.
Like, I'm president of my board, like, I like London Terrace
Yeah.
Towers.
Yep.
We can put it in the elevators, you know. It's,
Yes.
I find getting to the bike, there's always something new happened, it's not really new now, but
Yeah.
around the cruise
Yeah.
terminal, which is
Yeah.
completely screwed up,
Yeah.
it's totally screwed that up, and,
Yeah,
I don't think anybody knows that really, but, you know,
yeah,
but there was no notification
I
that
know.
things have changed there.
If you
Yeah.
have
There's nothing.
specific contacts for us, that would be very helpful because we can add them to our list for our stakeholders, as Emma
Well,
said.
CCBA stuff.
Yeah, so I represent that, yeah, that's the council of Chelsea Parks.
Yeah.
That's why I represent and Hudson River.
Okay, that's, you can definitely jump into research as well. It's hard.
The office of CB4 has a whole listing of contact.
Fantastic. Thank you, Christine.
Yeah,
Janine, we'll follow up with you next week about that, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Great, thank you.
great. I mean, okay, go ahead.
Not specific context, but just generally, social media is helpful.
Yeah.
And particularly like like the bike NYC subreddit is where I wind up
Yes.
finding a lot of those changes because I cannot find them anywhere else. So like as
Yeah.
someone who is
You're not the
cyclist
first
person,
person to say
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because I texted some friends when we were brainstorming this and I was like, so what other like places should we go? And literally they're like, you should go to Reddit.
Yeah, you should
That makes
Reddit.
sense. Yeah, so that's great. Thanks.
I think
Next,
we're almost done.
yeah, next slide. So
This
as
is how you can find us.
this is how you can find us. as sort of like Andy hinted at, and as you guys know, you can plan, and as I'm learning, you can plan everything to like the inch of its life, and then it gets implemented, and then you have to change it a little bit or tweak it, and so we're definitely like interested to hear for people that are on the Greenway or what, like anyone that's around the area. How are these things going for you? Are there ways that we can do things better once these changes are implemented? So we have a 24/7 hotline. We have a Manhattan construction email account that are monitored by our team. You can sign up, and anyone in the public can sign up for our construction notices on each of our project pages on our website. You can join our general mailing list, where we share more, some sort of like general project updates, but also like fun things like how are we tunneling and stuff like that. And then we also have live earth cams on our website if you want to check and see what's happening right now. So that's for each project. And then last but not least, we have a community engagement center that will be opening in Chelsea later this year. So that will be a really great way for people to come in person if they want to just talk to someone or share about an issue that they're having or just learn about the project. So that will be very exciting. We'll have, some sort of launch event for that, and I'm sure you guys will all be invited.
And we really want this to be an active kind, and as fun of a space as like this type of office can be, where we have a team that we're reaching out to local schools. We really want, I mean, and I've said this before, but I mean, if you're in high school now and you're about to go to college, you could conceivably get an engineering degree and be like working on this project in like 6 years. And that is truly something I hope that happens, that someone who lives in either New Jersey or New York is a kid who's hearing about this will like work on the project, because it's gonna last for a very long time. And then there'll be other phases of it too, like what you're talking about. There's a whole other suite of projects behind ours that will, be coming along, separately funding whatever we'll have in DC or whatever, but there's real potential there. So maybe that's me being kind of Pollyanna-ish, but from upstate New York, and I have that kind of thinking, like, let's hope we get there.
So I think that's the end of our deck. There's a question slide, and I know we talked about a number of questions during the deck, but happy to take anything from the group. What's on your minds? Yeah, and thank you all very much.
Yeah.
For a lot of time.
Yeah.
Before we get to questions, because I think we kind of, I don't want to talk them, but we.
Yeah,
I
you got
did
it.
it, yeah. I know Robert is on. Robert, I don't know if the park side, if you have anything to add that you should flag for us.
No, I think, Gateway does it. We're very grateful for their partnership. This is a lot of million details that we are working our way through. We are here if you guys see, if there are any issues that come up as the things start to get rolled out. Some of the details are still, being ironed out. We appreciate Rebecca and Emma and the whole team. We spend a lot of time with them. So just let us know if you guys hear anything. We'll be collaborating with them throughout this whole process.
It's great. We're so likable.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
I do want to say that, I don't have any questions, but I do want to say that it's such a joy to like work with you guys, because it's very easy, like, we work with agencies all the time, and they're nowhere near as thorough as this. And that's why I wouldn't even say we have to write a letter, honestly, because we have written letters before to you guys as we go along in this process. And we always point out details, and you always come back to us with a fix, or you always come back to us never forgetting that, we mentioned that in our letter. I don't want to speak for Christine's committee, because I know there's a lot of transportation going on in this particular one. But as far as parks and the bike lanes and all that stuff, we've always had a really good response back and forth.
Yeah.
Though we do need the community benefits, we're gonna keep talking and
We're
pushing.
focusing on that future.
Yeah, but unless anyone had any, if you wanted to write a letter about something, or I'll leave it to you, and I also want to defer to Christine also as well, if she thinks that there should be anything that on the transportation side that we might have overlooked or missing.
I don't think so. It's very thorough, and looks like these people know what they are doing.
Yeah. And next we'll get to the Port Authority now.
Thank you. And some people know this, but I worked at New York City DOT for about 12 years, and I did intergov over there and worked through a lot of like challenging bike lanes and projects and bus lanes and monster bikes or whatever. And so a lot of that experience of what didn't work informs a lot of like how we try to put this together. I would say that Andy and Guy have been really exceptional to work with. They've come to the table with like thoughtful ideas. They've had a lot of time working in other communities throughout this country. So I just, it's a huge team effort, and I appreciate you giving us that feedback. It's a very high compliment coming from a community board that has intense construction happening all the time. And then we know we're on the heels, we're coming in on the heels of also a lot of construction that just wrapped up. So, you know, we're gonna have challenging times in the future, but we're hoping like kind of this baseline of relationships that we've been building helps inform that. And we look forward to working with you too.
And just to inform some of the new people, I don't know if, so we're talking about community benefits. So a lot of times with these, because I've been saying this over and over again, but just so you know, a lot of times with these very big projects, or even smaller projects, big projects, obviously the immediate community is impacted, as you can see, a lot over many, many years, whether it's construction, whether it's noise, whatever it is, road closures. It is, I don't want to say customary, but not unusual to have a community benefits agreement, meaning like, okay, you're gonna do all this in our community, so.
Then what comes for us?
What comes for us, like, that is not to do with this product, meaning like, okay, but we're gonna give you $5 million for this park, I'm just throwing,
Right.
or something that's not associated with this, but it's kind of like, listen, we understand all your hardships. Unfortunately, that was not negotiated beforehand,
During the EIS.
yes, with the powers that be. So we kind of came in a little late on that, and their hands are tied a little bit of what we can negotiate and get that, but I am very determined to say that this is a very big project, how could that have been overlooked? And we need so many things in our district that, and it's how many billion, I mean, it's billions of
It's
dollars.
a $16 billion project that is
A few million.
But I mean, so we had a really productive conversation,
Yeah.
I think, before the summer really kicked off. And Ben Angle, who was here, you know, we tried to put together what we think is kind of a creative way to think about how the benefits can go. Because there wasn't a line in the EIS that said, and you know, I've heard, you know, Paul talking about DeWitt Clinton Park, that kind of plucked at my heart a little bit, because I know that that's a real concern and something that you guys would have to support capital construction. At that time, and you said, you know, do 15, you know, establish a fund to help rebuild DeWitt Clinton Park. Unfortunately, that didn't happen at the time, but what we've committed to, Jesse, to Leslie, to, you know, to the community board is bring us ideas, here's kind of a contour to work through. You know, send us ideas, we'll run down ideas, we'll try to be as creative and things.
And work with the current language that they have
Yes.
now, and kind of,
So we know that's a longer term conversation and we'll
Yeah.
be waiting to hear back from you after some ideas, but after we had the conversation, both Leslie and Jesse called me, and Jesse called me and said, we're kind of excited, this is helpful, we know kind of the lanes in which we can work, so we're happy to take that trip with you, okay?
Great.
Thank you so much, and I hope
You could
everyone.
follow the cruise terminal method and they could pay us $1 for every cyclist.
Start charging the cyclists.
Yeah, right.
I have just tiny question on the cycle.
Yeah.
Are you say you're putting bollards back, or are you getting more of these
There's gonna
bollards?
be, and Andy can speak to it, but there's gonna be bollards between the pedestrian, or barriers, I think.
Jersey barriers.
Between the
The
pedestrians and the cyclists, and then bollards between the directions of bikes.
Actually, delineators.
So.
Yeah, so delineators will be
I'm not-
between,
just-
I'm picking up on that.
yeah, but we'll have bollard,
I hate.
Yeah,
you say
you'll-
you hate bollards, you're like,
Well,
I hate.
So there's bollards out there right now. And the
Yeah, so take
bollards
them off.
are intended to help make sure people aren't driving down the bike lane, right? So there'll be bollards on either side to make sure that that continues to be a
The
secure.
motorcycles that are the problem, not cars driving down there. There's no,
Yeah.
But
there's
the-
one time that somebody drove a car,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
And unfortunately, yeah, we've seen a lot of
Unfortunately,
the,
but other than that,
Yep.
the motorbikes that are on there now do a lot more harm and can do a lot more harm
not the
than any
bike way
car.
on the.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Have you seen those things?
Robert, you know this conversation.
The bollards do nothing. And so
Yeah,
it's hurt my-
the
it's hurt
bollards
my
are there, they were
Well, that's not your
installed,
problem.
they run the whole length of the bikeway after the 2017 terrorist attack was on the bikeway. We
Yeah.
know cyclists hate them. They are like, our vehicles like have a half an inch clearance to get through them. It's you know, we deal with them also. I will say like we had this summer in one of the places where we have a you can get a vehicle beyond the bollard, so into the park side. We actually did have a vehicle that drove all the way onto our esplanade, using one of the Port Authority access spaces at Canal Street. So it can and does happen. That car hit a woman. It was essentially like a drunk driver or a driver under the influence of something. And so like we do need them. They are necessary, unfortunately.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Everyone
thank you.
have a wonderful weekend. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch. Yes, exactly.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Great. See, we don't even have to vote. Like that, right? So I want to thank Christine. Christine, are you alone in this? Or is Joe, are you the lone representative?
It looks like they
They
sent
have
me to
Matthew?
the Lions.
Yeah, now, don't, Brad's not here. So,
Nobody's here.
yeah, it's a very thin, committee today. So the reason why Christine was gracious enough to come, so their CB4 has been working for many years with the, Port Authority on, the Port Authority bus terminal project, which is another very heavy duty, multi-year, yeah, crazy project. And CB4 has had a working group. Mostly the same members, but there's been maybe 4 or 5 members that are part of that working group, which regularly meets with Port Authority. From everything from scheduling to logistics to design to everything. And I don't know if you guys remember that we have contributed to our, our asks of what we thought maybe we would like to see environmentally when they do build this and the planning to build it. So when we submitted our quote unquote asks or a list, with the DEIS that, some stuff, the working group went in and, we had the letter from CB4 we all voted on, the working group went in, I don't wanna say negotiated, but kind of pushed this or that or prioritized one issue over another. And Christine is gracious enough to, Christine, you don't mind as we do this, if we put up your,
No, I think we should do that, and maybe
okay, good, I wanted to,
maybe I have the document if I can share.
Jess, Janine has it as well, so it's up to you. So I think, we thought it might be a good idea. And the genesis of this was when Port Authority came to our meeting a few months ago. And it was about, if you guys remember, I don't know if it was before the newer members. They were talking about the park space and then some of the designs of the park space of the air shaft. And then it got into bathrooms, and then it got into like rings, and it went down the road, so we thought maybe it would be a good idea to have a representative from the working group come and say, listen. This is what we know, these are the, WPE asks. This is what we were told yes on, this is what we were told no on, so I think it'd just be helpful for this group to hear. Kind of be brought up to speed on where we're at, what we have to work towards, we could keep writing letters to them and what we want, but Christine. Really drafted this awesome list of our asks in the DEIS and what their response was. And this will also form our asks moving forward with them as well. So, Christine, do you wanna take over?
Yeah, I will. What I want to do is 180%. I want to make it as big as possible.
Is it possible at some point to put it in the Dropbox?
It isn't now.
Okay, it's in there now.
Yeah. So yes, what I did here is to match what, there was a letter on March 18 from the CB4, which really took in all the recommendations from WPE and put it into the comments. And it was the comments to the DEIS. And then the Port Authority responded in the FEIS line by line to each of those comments. And I thought I would go through that so that you can see what they said for each of the comments of WPE. And I'm not taking you through everything. I'm just taking you through the WPE asks. So one of the first questions was a rooftop park. And essentially, the FEIS said, no, we're not going to do that. The reason was essentially for money, and because they are going to create another park, which is on the deck overs. So that would have been an additional park, and that was probably beyond the budget. The extending the deck over 10th to 10th Avenue and they responded no to that. The deck on between 38 and 39 was curtailed because of tolling, station. And therefore they had to leave that portion up open to the sky. So they said they are not going to do, and indeed the decking is also very expensive. Staging deck over to support the park. They, structurally support a public open green space with full-grown trees and planting. And on this, they said, yes, they have committed to that. And in the POA, we'll see, in the point of agreement, we'll see further that it has been expanded on. So there definitely is a park on the deck overs from 37 to 39. You had asked for a community-based process, and they have committed to have a community-based process, which is very good. We had asked that the design take place in phase 1, which is starting next year. And even though the construction of the park is not going to happen until probably 10 years from now, and they have agreed to that. So next year we'll have a group, a whole group starting, including CB4 and others, to design the park. You had asked that to study a model which would give incentives to carriers to convert to electric by carriers, bus carriers, right? And they said that this is not their policy. They are not doing subsidies or incentive. The next question was low carbon materials. Their answer was ambiguous. And it said they will be discussing further investment in sustainable building and practice. And when I say maybe, what I mean is that now it will be the time to go and push for that and say, what are you going to do about that? But they didn't want to commit to that in the FEIS. You guys had asked and close the ramp and filter the air. And the answer is no. Because the ramps, because they figure that the buses are going to become electric. They are equipping the whole terminal so that bus can recharge there. And therefore, by definition, they are going to reduce tremendously the amount of bad air quality. And therefore, they don't have to do an enclosure to take care of it. Carbon negative and CO2, same answer as above. Further details will be done. And I think you have the opportunity to talk to the Port Authority environmental group and really discuss with them what they are going to do and maybe push them into doing more. Green walls and rooftop parks. So again, the rooftop park, they already said no. And green walls, they told us that it was very, very expensive to maintain green walls. And they had a tendency to really be difficult to maintain. And therefore, they would not want to do that because the maintenance would be too high. Whether there would be additional decking and air filtration going all the way from now 37 to 33rd. And their answer is no. And clearly that was a funding and money budget issue. Okay, asbestos remediation, the answer was yes. And you can read obviously all the details on the right side, but they essentially they said, yes, we're doing that. Fast charging EV station for individual cars. You should know that there is no parking area in this project. There is none. So their view is that they were going to work on bus because their mission is the buses and low emission and charging of the buses, but they would not include a low charging for cars. Solar lighting, I think it says maybe because when they say comment noted, that means that they want to take it back. So that's good. Bird-friendly glass, they said yes. Tree canopy, yes to the tree canopy. They have assured us, and we have worked with them, to have absolutely not only the trees in the park, but having a lot of trees on the street every 25 feet. And they have agreed to move all the distant grids inside the building, so all the trees can be installed on the sidewalk. So we feel very good about that. Permeable pavement, again, it's a maybe. They said we'll look at it later. Separating stormwater from sewage, again, they said maybe, and later. Garbage collection, we have had a lot of discussion with them on the garbage collection. They have agreed to put all the garbage inside loading docks, and they have designed the loading docks and the facade to be able to do that. For trash compactors, separating the trash and the waste level, I think that what they are saying is these are additional detail that they want to discuss later. And so there is an opportunity to influence them now with those items. Construction air quality, they will comply with the levels of the city and the CEQR manual. And so the answer is yes. And the vehicle idling, they will comply with limiting the vehicle idling within the plan. So the second section is that in the DEIS response, we had a section where the MCB4 proposed initial list of mitigation and community benefits. And that's a list which was voted by the whole CB4 at that time, okay? And now I'm going to take you through that, which sometimes is redundant, but it tells you what. So agree to develop the open space, they said yes, and they will have a maintenance and operation agreement where they will assume a portion of the maintenance. Additional green space, we wanted more green space and they said no. That's the same thing, no. And no, 3 section. They will replace the public open space known as Teresa Park. They will replace that. They will not create a greenway path on West 36th Street. They consider that it's a DOT, but they will create a greenway path on the widened sidewalk on the north side of West 39th Street. And they have shown us the plan, and it's going to be very exciting. Solar panels on the green roof. They said, you know, the roof of the project to the greatest extent practicable after the mechanical will be designed to accommodate solar panel and green roof. So I think it's a yes, and maybe we're going to have to push them to not only design the accommodation, but design a mixture of the implementation. Water retention tanks, they said yes. They say we will incorporate the sustainability design standard, which exceed the city department. I'm so sorry. Staging decks to support the park, yes, they will have the decks. The community-based process, yes, they will do that. They are committed to that. The design process in phase 1, I mentioned that above. Yes, it will be done starting next year. And they will do, and they have started, a Dyer Avenue pilot, which would allow to close a portion of Dyer Avenue in order to expand the amount of green space we could have between 34 and 37. So they have committed to do that with DOT, and they have started to do that. And finally, they are committed to install, to build a dog run on between 35 and 36. And they are looking at to the HYHK to do the maintenance of the space, but they will build the space. So that's that. I think if you look at the whole thing, I think we got a lot of things approved and a fair amount of things that we can still work on with different departments in the Port Authority.
I definitely think that's I think it's a great job. I mean, listen, it's a big project. It's ongoing, it's live, it's moving, right? So like you said, I think if there are some things that we were not happy with the response, there's time, I wouldn't say plenty of time, but there's definitely time to hopefully bring it up as a negotiating point again. Christine, would you agree? I think some of these things,
yes.
So, the reason why we want to do this is because I know when Port Authority was here last time, and I know some of the members were asking about, is there gonna be a bathroom? And if you do have a bathroom, you have to design the pipes there for, things like that, which are very good questions. So when we bring them back to the working group, they can kind of advocate for us as well, in those discussions. But with those parks being a little bit of a separate issue, we will be involved in the design phase of those parks.
Yeah.
So
definitely you will.
Yeah.
And then yes, and then I think all the items which are more of an environmental nature, I think there is a very strong environmental division at PA, at Port Authority. Oh, yeah. And I think you guys should invite them and pick one or two, subject where they said yes or maybe, and start discussing with them outside of the project what they plan to do and how they plan to do it. And, kind of putting pressure on that group to become your advocate, our advocate inside the authority.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we'll definitely invite them to a future meeting soon, because they work for the Port Authority and they could definitely be our advocates inside the Port Authority, because we would think that they're like-minded with some of the same goals, obviously not the same limitations, but they're limited, but definitely
and they may have a separate budget, by the way.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, because this is the budget of the project. But if they are an environmental and they install solar panels everywhere, they may have a budget to install solar panels, or etc. So I think you may be also tapping a different fund here.
That can overlap. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think these are things that the project said, it's not part of my project because they had a very tight, limited budget. But now if another division comes in and say, okay, I'll pay for this, we may have a new opportunity to say, okay, we get that, right?
I don't know if anyone has any questions for Christine or any of I know this might be a little far from our memory because we had this discussion a while ago when we did this DEIS response, but if anyone had any questions for Christine on anything maybe wanted to see or.
Just a quick comment I'm totally gonna defer to the working group on this, but the one no that really jumped out at me as short-sighted that I think deserves heavy pushback is not putting any fast charging EV stations in there, just from a fleet maintenance perspective. All of if there's any electrification of maintenance vehicles that the Port Authority is gonna rely upon to service the new terminal, if they don't have that infrastructure in place, it seems rather silly to me.
So let me clarify. All the bus station will be electrified.
No, but I mean with
all the
respect
bus
to
station. I mean, a bus comes in, they will be able to charge and leave.
Maybe they're referring to the public, they won't have charging stations.
Right, exactly.
They'll certainly have it for maintenance in their buses, I would think.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what, no,
We don't know.
yeah,
We
my
don't
point
know.
is, yeah, my point's directed to maintenance, right?
Sure.
So if they're gonna be using any fleet services, you know, a pickup truck or carts or anything that we're gonna be operating within the facility to maintain the fleet, not the passenger service, but just maintenance service, I would hope that would be built in, even if they're not going to provide it for individual public use.
Right.
Yeah,
can
and we
talk-
push them on that, but they were really, you know, I asked where the fleet would be and where the, you know, whether there was going to be some kind of garage for the fleet, as you are saying, right? Or trucks, and they were not responsive. But that's something you could again bring up with the environmental group and say why not, you know.
And even my big thing, even for public charging, right, because we have
Yeah.
none, zero, we have none, but like it's such a huge footprint, it's a very big footprint, you don't need and you don't need, you just need a very small space for public vehicle chargings to come in and out. And I don't know if anyone, does anyone know, when they, you guys, well, you're near Penn South, right? They put those 2 public vehicle charging stations behind Sullivan Street Bakery, it's not a parking lot. It's just an area that the public can come for,
Yeah.
when I say for free, yeah, you know that.
No, no, of
Yeah,
course.
free access.
Is
Meaning
there a
like,
sign?
I don't think there's a sign.
It's
No,
very
I don't know, there's no table. Yeah.
There's no, I've never known, not that I have an electric car, but I always walk around saying, why is there no electric? So there's not even a sign, because I walk by there, I ride my bicycle by
It was
there.
a Penn South initiative, and they did it for them, I'm sure for their residents, but also it's public. But it's not a parking lot necessarily, it's just.
It's just a
what happens.
Space.
Yeah.
It's just like a little
Space.
space that you can go, and it's heavily used, yeah,
But you think coming to use those chargers, just.
anyone.
But you get charged for that, free charges.
Free meaning, I mean, you have to pay for the electricity,
Right.
but there's no like paywall, meaning like you don't have to pay like a parking garage.
Right.
$50 just to get in to charge the car, it's like you're driving on the New York State Thruway and you.
It's just one.
It's like
No,
a
there's
gas
two.
station,
I think
you know,
there's two.
Gas.
I think there's 2. Yeah, it's like a gas. David, go ahead.
Christine, are they at least agreeing to provide green roofs at locations where we had asked for rooftop parks?
Yeah, they said they had yes, they said they will use the best, you know, the best environmental either solar panel or green roof or a combination of both, because they have so much space.
But I think the wording is like where it's feasible, or, you know what I mean, so we have to put, like, it's that little, the leeway that they'll have, oh, it's not feasible, we're not gonna, you know, it's something like that.
No, they are saying that they are going to equip the roof so they can receive that. Then I think what we need to advocate with the environmental group is, you know, that they really do it, right?
Yeah.
But I mean,
Right,
like the building on between 9 and 10 is going to presumably be finished in 5 years, and so, you know, between now and then we could make sure that there is a funding at the PA to install something there, right?
Yes, I mean, I think your idea of talking to their environmental impact group is smart.
Right.
Cause they can probably give us even better, better, information than the regular group has, you know what I mean, they'll know more in detail of how that could work, or can't.
Or they can tell you, yes, there is a plan, you know, we don't know.
Yeah, right. Roberta, I know you had your hand, I'm sorry, David, were you done or not?
Yes.
Roberta, you had your hand.
I'm just like reading, and partly in response to David, it seems like they are saying they're going to do a minimum of LEED silver, but that they an envision gold rating is anticipated, so perhaps there's some advocacy that
Exactly.
the community could exert there to ensure that the LEED standards are higher than silver. Although it seems like the Port Authority is certainly trying. This is partly relating to the chargers, but there's that parking structure there that currently exists. And is that going away? I
Yes, it's gone.
admittedly don't. know. Okay,
Everything
yes, yes.
Gone.
I mean, and there will not be a replacement parking
No.
structure, so therefore, there is no need for there's not necessarily a need for charging in the sense that there's not going to be public parking.
It's,
Oh.
yes.
Those not
We
many
keep
would
attaching public parking with EV, it has not,
Yes,
it's
No, no,
mean
I
people who are driving through, or like who live in the area or coming from Lincoln, you know, it's
Yes.
just the access to public chargers, but yes. Not necessarily married to a parking lot.
I apologize, I just meant that as their logic, not necessarily
Yes, correct.
that we should never have street, curbside EV charging.
Well, that's why we were, I know, that's why Christine, I know when we talked about this EV whole thing, like, we don't necessarily want curbside. We would love to have some sort of designated out of the way, I mean, out of the way is hard in Manhattan, but out of the way area that people could go and kind of to eliminate the curbside need, right, Christine? That was the big.
Well, I think we still have, you know, while they were finalizing the FEIS and the negotiation, etc., they were really obsessed with the budget and sticking within the envelope, right? And so I think as we go forward, we may find that there may be a little more wiggle room there to ask.
And ironically, putting EV chargers there would be the one place where they actually would make money, but it would actually be an income, but for them. Someone else had their hand up, I thought.
Oh, I should ask Roberta, where did you see that they were striving from silver?
It says on the document that Christine was reading at the top.
It's in our Dropbox.
Yeah, this is page 1, and it just says that they are the replacement facility would be designed to achieve a minimum of LEED silver, and an envisioned gold rating is anticipated to be pursued. And this is in response to the rooftop park, so I think relevant to like David's comment.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah, there's definitely leeway here, we can still wedge in and advocate for sure, for sure. Christine, we're not gonna write you a letter, I don't envision a letter going.
Oh, I'm so disappointed.
Anyone else have any questions but this is this is also good to just get an update from other committees or other different groups that are working, so we kind of know what each other's doing, because sometimes, you know, we just want to avoid that confusion when we don't, but this is, Christine, I think this was super helpful. And Christine, if you don't mind, can we circulate this document with our committee? It's in the Dropbox already, but I want to also email it to everyone.
Yeah, you should.
Who I know would have some additional
that's
thoughts for
public
maybe.
information, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Christine.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank
you. Wait, Christine, Sarah has something.
Maybe you hang around for the beginning of our next discussion for like 5 minutes. I have something that may be cross transportation.
Say that again.
Could you maybe hang around for another 5 minutes as Leslie starts the next
Okay.
conversation? It'll make sense. Fine.
Thank you, Christine.
All right.
So our next and last, other than new business, old business, is we won't vote tonight, but just we don't even really have to have a major discussion about it. But every year, CB4, every community board actually, lists or presents to the city what's called the statement of district needs. And it prioritizes all of our needs, expense and capital, and it's broken down by committee and by really by agency as well. And it just so happens, we're very lucky on WPE because I was the former budget chair and now we have the budget chair. Roberta is the budget task force chair. So we kind of know a little bit intimately of how the process works. But just to give you guys a little bit of an overview, you don't know. So every year we go through our asks. For WPE, it would be like, okay, we want DeWitt Clinton Park funded and renovated. We want more PEP officers. There's a list and it's in the Dropbox of what we asked for last year and the responses from the city for our budget asks. there have been some stuff also outlined stuff that we haven't asked for though, also is being funded, like the bathroom at, Matthews Palmer. We didn't ask for that, but it's being done. As I mentioned before, Marty and I will sit down with Steve Simon and, the borough commissioner about what they're envisioning for our district. It usually is pretty much in line of what we're asking for. It's pretty good. So we'll have that information as well to bring to the budget task force. But I don't know if anyone had any thoughts. I wanna go through it real quick of what we asked for last year. Because it's really not that big of a list, but what we asked for last year, what was funded, what is partially funded, what we think might be funded, and anything new that we discussed as a committee, voted on and had a letter, can also be introduced as a new ask for this coming up year.
Leslie, does it have to have been put in the letter? to
Yes.
be in the list? Oh,
It has to be voted on.
has to be voted on. Okay, do you mind if I just throw my?
Go ahead, yes.
Christine, so she can draw.
Well, we could do it if it's a Parks, and we could bring it on the agenda for next month.
Okay,
But go ahead.
why I'm raising it, and thank you, Christine, it might be like a cross item, or it might better belong with transportation. Christina, I don't know if this is on your radar, it's thought about by the board in the past, but both as a cyclist and pedestrian, the intersection and connection to the Greenway bike path coming off right from Chelsea Piers, like 22nd Street, 23rd Street. I don't know who else bikes or walks there, but there's no segregated bike path. And so it's always an issue that bikes have to co-mingle with pedestrians for bicyclists who are trying to exit the Greenway and get into the neighborhood. There's no seamless dedicated bike path. And so it's like you're biking, you have to bike up on the sidewalk, although because you're crossing the highway, it's not safe to be anywhere else.
It mixes with the
bikeway,
Yeah.
the bikeway there is controlled by the state DOT.
Uh-huh.
And there is a whole project of studying the area from 57th Street to Chambers Street, and we have already identified this intersection as a major problem.
Yeah, great, okay, cool.
So it's not going to
happen.
happen right away, obviously, but it has been put on the map and say, this is an issue, we need to do something about that.
Okay, and so that's the right process for that, it would not make sense to do it.
No.
Okay, cool,
Okay,
cool, thank you.
Thanks,
Alright.
Christine.
goodbye.
Bye bye. So this is just more food for thought. You guys can go back and, you'll have this in the Dropbox of what we asked for. Something comes to mind. We can discuss it next month for sure. We can reprioritize if you guys think that's necessary. But let's go, our capital asks in the past, have been number one on the list and number one in our hearts is shore power. And that will always be number one, as long as I'm chair.
Yeah, your article with everybody, I hope everybody saw.
Oh, you shared it?
I did not, I told you.
I did,
Okay.
I think, and also, so what we do is we'll prioritize 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They'll go to budget task force, and then they'll mix it into the priorities with transportation, with, BLP, everything else. Shore power has usually either been 1, 2, or 3 on the full board's capital list, pretty consistently. DeWitt Clinton, that was a past ask, it will be a current ask as well. That's one of the things that we'll talk to Parks about, because as they presented last meeting, they are doing some renovations, not full, but some, so we'll kind of get up to speed on the budget ask there. Vehicle charging stations is a current one, though that is an environmental. It came out of, actually joined our committee. It's technically a transportation ask, and that's pretty high up on the list, which we just talked about. DeWitt Clinton bathrooms, current Bloomberg playground sidewalk repair, McCaffrey playground renovation, DeWitt Clinton dog run, and a Gertrude Kelly playground reno. Other new needs, that have not been, have been discussed before, but I don't think have been officially asked were, Pier 76, we wrote a letter this year to ask the city to match the state funds for the former Tow Pound Pier so we can develop it. It was not included in the budget, that's gonna be an ask for us, definitely high up pretty much this year. Penn South public bathrooms, that they talked about the Penn South renovation, we wanna see more public bathrooms in our parks, especially if they're redoing parks. I think our rule of thumb is, if it's a new park, put a public bathroom in there. That will be in there, solar lighting will be in there. And then also we have some DSNY placeholders. We don't have necessarily any capital right now, but I believe that DSNY, if we can work with them, we are trying to. They'll be a pretty heavy presence in our next meeting with a lot of asks and what they're looking for in our district, what they think our needs are in our district. We're still working to see if they can come, but so hopefully that will.
Sorry, what's TS?
I'm sorry, sanitation.
Oh,
Sorry,
no, that's okay.
sanitation.
Thanks.
Because we also do sanitation, but like for frequent more frequent basket pickup.
Mhm.
That's an expense, but you know, we would love to advocate for that, and that would be in our, an ask for our budget.
Yeah, got it.
Needs.
Thanks.
Let's see, expense stuff. You'll see more park staff, more PEP staff, playground associates, tree prunings, and all the the sanitation things that we're gonna go over. So I don't wanna get too much into the weeds with any of this, it's just more kind of food for thought, and you can see what we asked for before. There's no, I don't believe, serious shifts in what we're gonna ask for, except for Pier 76 will probably be a big ask. I envision, public bathrooms again will be an ask. But unless anyone have any ideas or any comments on what we should include, if I'm missing anything, I was really working mostly off last year's list. And then looking at all the letters we did this past year.
And on the, one thing I would just say, the solar lighting, just from updating from what like Paul said, I think we previously have asked for it for the Penn South playground. We could say for any, you know, playgrounds or parks undergoing major capital work, we request that a solar panel, that some sort of solar lighting be added, so we can add to that list.
I think that's right.
And then the other, I don't know if there's anything that the committee would want to do with what Paul suggested or was talking about with the physical spaces within the parks that are utilized for staff and the use of the benefits that are ultimately conferred upon parks that have space for staff to physically be present. Because if they're physically present, then they can be better responsive to.
I can bring that up with Steve.
Yeah,
And see what he says, like how we would, you know, it would be a letter, like we can, as I say, that there might be a few letters next month, just so we could fit it in, so we can include it in our budget asks, but that usually
Because
gets good too.
it's sort of downstream of some of the issues we dealt with the staffing and with the like capital needs, but if there's.
We can connect it for sure.
advocating
Yeah.
for it, that seems helpful.
Yeah, let me just bring them to Steve. Great. Anything else?
I don't think there's a creative way to fit it in,
What?
either capital or expense, but if there's a way for us, based on our last meeting, to press within our request a revision of the procurement process and the cluster that it creates for renovations and cost overruns. I don't know how we'd work that in, but
Well, if I could make a recommendation, so in addition to the list provided here, there is a written narrative document in which we often memorialize things that are not budget line items. And we could talk about some of the challenges that we've had specifically with those capital projects and timelines. I think it's probably one of the big themes that we'll see is just got a lot of construction, a lot of really large capital projects happening in the district, and just the amount of time that they're taking would be a kind of great way to weave some of that in, if that seems.
I think it's a great idea. I think that's a great idea.
Did they ever respond to confirm what regulation they were citing was driving that one time? I think I asked that
it was
question.
some state regulation.
Yeah, but then they
right?
didn't,
never
because I
yeah.
asked them, and I asked them to send it to us. We ever did?
No, I don't think we got an answer on the letter, but in all, I think it wasn't sent out that long ago, no, maybe a month now, right?
Yeah.
Was it in that letter?
Was the question repeated in that one?
I'm not sure.
Double check.
Cause I remember Sarah. I can look. State.
Because that could also just be, in addition to that, like a letter to our state legislators. Legislators. But that's why I just want to know, were they doing all, and that's actually like a state law thing, or is it actually just like an?
And not only that, we can offline call, you know what I mean, call
Yeah.
the state. Like assembly members off and just see, hey, what's and once we get that information, we can then.
Yeah.
Pontificate on it.
Yeah, because that's why I think wasn't clear to me, like truly, like, I doubt the law is like, it must be 9 months long to reserve something, like that's probably not what's going on,
Yeah.
right?
Right,
So that's really like the agency practice, the protocols issue that, which is a different ask, different letter potentially. But it feels like that was to be a letter we write to whoever the right audience is of like concern with procurement practices and timelines.
It may take them 9 months to respond.
Right, yeah, exactly,
Or it goes to legislators too, and you know, the oversight, you know what I mean, like.
I haven't read all the letters, obviously, but was anything done on the sanitation side about buildings over 6 stories tall, about handling the garbage? Containerizing garbage for larger buildings?
I think in the past, we've written letters in the past on compactors. Compacting, we have written letters in curbside containerization. I don't know if we've written a specific letter on like we might have actually.
Because there's that level of 6 below where you have to, right, put it in.
Yes.
But like in buildings like ours that have 19 stories, so you don't have to.
Yeah, it's
And
all
we're still piling garbage outside.
on the sidewalk.
Yeah, we have to make our people do it at 3 in the morning though. So I just don't know if anybody, because there are pilot programs out there about containerizing special trucks, picking up like they do in Europe. I'm just wondering whether it's ever been discussed for our neighborhood, because it's extremely necessary.
So.
Was involved in the pilot.
Yes, years and years ago, so, and it's funny, I was actually walking uptown in Hartland, very uptown, they have a ton of the curbside containerization.
It's being done somewhere in the city, but.
Yeah.
Pilot program.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that could be weaved into, or is it too late, we just do it next year?
No, it's not too late, you know why, we have that, it doesn't have to be from the last year. I think we wrote about that.
Yeah,
2 years ago.
I also think that we have been on the record about it, but if not, we can figure out a way to
Definitely.
memorialize it,
Yeah.
because I do know that but like, is the request, the desire is having some sort of like curbside bin.
Yeah.
Similar to, I think it's CB9 that got the pilot.
Yeah,
Okay.
the curbside bin, and there's also bins that you could fill in your building, and just bring them out when the trucks come, there's different. But you need a specific truck and you need a specific bin, it's really more about money than anything else, we have the money to do it.
Had this conversation, Leslie, which was, and I don't remember when, it was sometime in the last year or so. And that was when we wanted to have DSNY come here, and it was so difficult to get.
Yes.
To figure, and that was the topic. That's
Oh,
what-
was it, was that it?
Yeah, well, that was it, yeah, because it was from CCBA, that was a question all over the neighborhood, how this is gonna work. And so we just talked about getting DSNY here, and they couldn't do, they couldn't.
Yeah, so
you know,
DSNY is hard, they always,
Yeah.
because they always
Yeah.
send, it's not like parks where we get chief of staff, you know, they always send like a community liaison or something, and every time we ask them questions, they were, we have to get back to you, because they don't really know.
Right.
Recently, Roberta was with me, I was gonna say, who was it?
Yeah.
We went on a walk through, Gail Brewer, Councilmember Brewer, hosted a walkthrough of the Columbus Circle area, which is the very northern part of CB4. And they were dealing more with vendors and trash and how it kind of bleeds into Central Park, but also that area, which is us. It just so happens someone who was there is a very, very high up official or assistant to the commissioner at DSNY. So we got, his card, like we got the right person. So I'm gonna meet with him and be like, listen, these are our issues. So hopefully sometimes when you get the right person, they can answer these questions a little more capably. So let's just see, let's see, maybe he doesn't answer CB4's call. I don't know, but we're gonna try. And that's why when I said we're trying to work with DSNY, with Senate for next month, this is the guy that I'm hoping will help us a little bit better, answer more of our questions. Cause I know, I'll give you an example, he was asking, he said, you know, we would love it if the community boards would advocate more for. Right now, if there's trash outside on the street, right, it's the storefront's responsibility to clean that up. Right, I believe, I don't know all the details, he said he was gonna give me some more details. Right now, they can only issue summons in like a very, like an hour, like, you would think you could go to the store and issue a summons. He said, we can't do that, it has to be in specific times, so there is some sort of legislation that's working its way through city council, that's open from 6 a.m., you know, DSNY can issue a summons from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. When the stores are open, they can't, so it's something, you know, and he's like, can you please write a letter about, it? You know, or something like that, so I think if we can work with DSNY on that stuff, that's also, I guess, things we can advocate for, that would be helpful for us in the long run. So, yeah, that was it. Yeah, I think she said something about were you there when I don't know if you were there when I was talking to him, it was about something about the timing of the summons, they can't, he's like, he was pushing that, we would really love this legislation that someone has sponsored, we want to get through, so.
And anecdotally, we're living through something similar. For background, we're living this specific issue on my street. We've been complaining about garbage in front of a shop for the past 3 years. And it's not just the red tape, it's just the process.
Yes.
Because if I'm out at 8 o'clock in the morning and I take a picture of rats crawling out of a bag from the sushi restaurant that's been left there overnight, it has to go through 311, it's reported. By the time it's reported and disseminated to DSNY, DSNY dispatches an inspector. It's not there anymore. And by the time they get there, there's nothing to send a summons on because.
But you do have your photo, but.
Yeah, but they don't care what the photo is. It's when the inspector arrives, if the issue is still present or not present. So if there's a way to.
Well, I'm hoping that if we do get some positive, like, replies from DSNY that they come next month. That would definitely be on our.
You know, I'll reach out to the person that we're working with on our very specific
Okay.
issue, who's been great, she's been really helpful.
Who was that?
I don't recall her name off the top of my head.
I'm gonna talk to you outside of this about that, because I have been successful in that with CCBA, Susan should be involved in that.
Yeah, and I think she'd be a perfect person to talk to
Okay,
about
so-
getting there.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you about that, because I have been successful with that company.
Right. I know Ella's there, I know Alice is there, Lisa, do you guys have any comment or any ideas about this? I mean, we're gonna talk more thoroughly about the budget next month, where we actually will prioritize. It's not really as painful as it sounds, especially with this committee, more painful when we get to budget task force. But, if any of you guys have any comments, ideas, suggestions, no? Yeah. Anything else? Old business, new business then? No letters coming out of WPE this month?
I will talk to you for 2 minutes, I don't wanna take everybody's time, but I wanna ask you something that you really did speak, relative specifically to my.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Okay.
I do have a question about the bike lane. Do we not take care of the bike lanes or we, or like there's an issue at the 57th Street. They're doing construction there.
Mhm.
Is that something, and it is, I think it's, I don't know if it's a cruise terminal or the.
You're talking about in the park or the?
No, but the specific bike lane. They're doing construction there and they moved the bike lane over.
I don't recall.
And it's like there aren't actually 2 lanes there.
No, and the signage is wrong. I actually took a photo because I was on it this morning and I almost killed myself because it tells you to stay right and then all of a sudden it says bike stay left.
Where is this?
But it really should be right and there are bikes coming at, people coming at you and I took a video of it because I don't know who to send it to.
Wait, where is this?
It's 57th Street where they're doing
And the
construction.
Greenway.
And the Greenway. It's really dangerous. And
Yeah, it's.
I had to go back and look
it's
again, I actually
temporary-
rode back to say like, did that sign really say that? Because it
You can
went,
do it too.
all of a sudden it flip flopped and it was right, all the bikes were still staying, right.
Yeah.
But some go, nobody knows what to do.
So what happens is
That's
that,
the green one.
It's in the Greenway.
so the Greenway is state, right? But when it comes to signage, sometimes Hudson Park can help us with that, or if it's by 57th Street, that might be EDC. they can help us with that, but I'll send an email
Yeah,
tomorrow.
I think it's like, because they're building a movie studio there, I think it's.
Oh, yes, that's for
It's
now.
at the Ranthville of
It's for
the,
NATO.
it's at the Ranthville of the cruise.
I know what you're talking, okay,
It's always been horrific anyway, but they just made it worse.
well, it's for NATO, so unfortunately it's gonna be a little tougher to, but we can send them an email.
And I'll send you a picture. so
You send me a picture, we can send them an email. They haven't been here in a while, but they sometimes occasionally come and give us updates on that, actually, we've only been a few times, updates on that project.
Yeah.
The movie studio project, or television.
There's a stop sign there that nobody ever stops at, and
I know they promised us they would have people there and flaggers and all that.
I took a picture of the guy that was there last time.
I'll just.
He was in a
give you
car
little
sleeping,
anecdote.
like all the way.
I'll give you a little anecdote of 2009 going to Hudson River Advisory on crossing 15th Street, right? Is a crossing guard at the at bike lanes, you know, right in front of Pier 57. So takes me through alongside me is a moped. And he waves him on.
That's what I mean.
I know you could have kept going, but you could at least have said, you don't belong.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
It's crazy, they don't try anymore, I think they're just.
They could use some enforcement people
I did
there.
say,
I
I
was,
did say something to Robert at the meeting, because it just, I know they're gonna keep going, they're not gonna stop, but at least if you.
Say something.
Say something, say something.
I think-
Is that the one with like, that's like a bike, or is it the one that's more like a scooter?
More like a
Yes.
scooter, but
Okay.
it is gas powered, it's not
Yes, yeah.
exclusively so, but
Okay.
most of
This was a moped.
So I think
the moped.
I think Hudson Park Trust is actually moving, talking about Bernado and EDC. And what they're gonna do to Pier 92, whether it's gonna be like last mile, pickup or delivery. I think Hudson River Park is very concerned that it's gonna lead to more of that. If that happens, so that's why they were like, we have to really figure out how to deal with that, because there's so many, motorized, electric, like fast moving, bikes and mopeds and scooters that. They think if they put that in, we would have to think about it beforehand, that's all, but yeah. All right,
Okay.
motion to adjourn? Great, thanks, guys, thank you online, Janine, we didn't have quorum, but it didn't matter, we didn't have any letters or votes. So it was a
Okay.
full meeting.
Okay, that's fine.
I just saw it, bye Alice, bye Lisa, bye Ella.